Here we go. You're watching the Scoreboard. Now, this is a football show. Why are we on the Chainlink YouTube? Sports data delivered via the Chainlink Oracle Network is used by Augur to settle their permissionless, no-limit prediction markets. The Scoreboard is presented by Augur, Chwy, and Chainlink. I'm Andy Boyan from Chainlink Labs. We look at NFL and NCAA football data and prediction markets on Augur to compare the sports data supplied via the Chainlink network, and then the market sentiment and predictions on Augur. So for me, it's me and Chwy taking a look at what the markets are telling us about the NFL matches this week. And we're talking football data that you can get from premium Chainlink-enabled data providers like The Rundown, SportsdataIO, and SportMonks. If you're a developer and you want to use Chainlink sports data in your smart contract, check the links in the description. And if you're here for football and data insights, because we, talk data and all that good stuff, I made some pretty decent predictions last week. Let's take a look at some of these results that Augur settled last week. How you doing, Chwy?
I'm doing well.
Man, it looks like you made some good calls, and there was some decent football happening last week. The first one I wanted to talk about was Tampa Bay at the LA Rams. How was this game for you?
Pretty solid.
LA pulls it out. They're looking really good.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady did not look that great. At least I think I saw the second half. It just didn't, they couldn't get anything together.
Yeah, that defense was tough on them. And, they were missing Antonio Brown, and Mike Evans still a little banged up. But, they could get some pressure on them.
So Tampa Bay was favored by 1.5, and the crowd had picked LA to beat that spread. The crowd was right. LA beat Tampa Bay by 10 points there. Another interesting game, Arizona, who's rolling. They were favored by 7 at Jacksonville, and you said Arizona would beat the 7-point spread, and they absolutely did. Man, Arizona looks great.
Yeah, that game was actually a little scary for a little bit. That was my big bet of the week. But, they tried to kick a 68-yard field goal, longest of all time, and came up short, and Jacksonville returned it for tying the longest play in history for a 109-yard. Made the bet a little scary.
Probably not prop bets on those, I'd guess. Yeah, you said they'd win by 2 touchdowns, and so they didn't do that, but it was actually pretty close, and they still pulled out and beat that spread there. So still a good call. You still get the credit there. Another fun one was the Saints, New Orleans Saints at the Patriots. And basically what we're seeing now is, are we going to get good Jameis or bad Jameis? And we got good Jameis again.
Yeah, we got normal.
Okay, Jameis. Not throwing interceptions, Jameis, right?
Yeah, which is a shocker. But they did cover the under.
Now, the over-under here was 42.5, and the crowd was leaning towards the over here. There was, some 66, some 70% of the crowd. You took the under here. So this was a great call from Chwy. Why did you like the under here? Do you remember, what was your thinking behind this data?
Oh, yeah, both defenses are solid, and I'm not a believer in either quarterback. So...
All right. Well, by this logic, we'll get bad Jameis this week. We'll see if that, if my story, my pattern recognition takes over. Good call there. Carolina at Houston. Carolina was favored by 8, and everybody, including me, was taking Houston because Houston was looking good, looking for Houston to cover the spread, but they couldn't. Carolina won by a whole lot more than that. The markets and me were all wrong. Houston is as good as everyone thought, as Vegas thought they were, at least.
Yeah, this game was actually somewhat reasonable, pretty close until 4 minutes to go. And then Carolina just, blew out the spread.
Blew out the spread. Turning to college, the big one that I was proud of this week is Rutgers was at UM, and we were hoping for Rutgers to pull one off for you there, Chwy. They didn't win, but they definitely covered the spread. The spread, when I was looking at it last week, was 20.5 points for U of M. That just didn't look possible to me, and Rutgers did beat that spread and only lost by 7 at the Big House. Hey, go Knights!
Rutgers actually had a shot in this game. Some questionable coaching decisions by Shiano, who I am normally a big fan of, but wasn't too happy with this game. Costly turnover at the end. Rutgers had the ball, big fumble near the 50-yard line. They had a chance to go tie it there.
I'm gonna call the home team in that advantage. That's where you're gonna make a mistake. Is the pressure's on? They're still young guys. They're figuring it out. So that's still a decent call. But hey, man, Michigan having some trouble moving the ball, and I think that's going to actually impact their game this week as well.
Yeah, I think you're going to be right on that call too.
All right, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Other big game in college, Texas A&M was favored by 4.5 at Arkansas, who's great. And Arkansas beat them. So Arkansas is looking good and then they're going to play, or Alabama's coming to play Arkansas. So that's going to be a really interesting game for this week. But the calls for this week was our bet against each other was I took the over and you took the under. The over under was 48.5. The total score was 30. So you clobbered me on this one. How did you know?
Defenses are just too good.
Defenses are good. SEC defenses are great and came together. So well done. I'll tip my hat to you there. There's a few other big upsets in college. Number 9, Clemson lost to NC State. Kansas City Chiefs lost at home to the Chargers. What's going on with the Chiefs? Is this just a bump in the road, or are there problems?
I think they get right this week.
It's a good week to get it right. We'll take a look at that. So Augur used sports data via Chainlink to settle those Augur Turbo prediction markets. And coming up, we've got a new set of games, markets, and odds to look at. Chwy, I want to talk NFL this week. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, the first one, some really interesting games. Arizona, who's firing on all cylinders, at the Rams, who's high-powered and scoring a lot. The Rams are favored by 5. The over-under is 54.5, at least when I checked it last. What do you think about this game?
Right now, 58% of the bets are placed on Arizona to cover. I am leaning with the Rams here. Sean McVay is 8-0 versus Arizona in his time being there, with the average margin of winning by 20. So I'll take the Rams cover to win by more than 4.5 on this one.
Is that going to be due to game planning and just pure ability to outcoach and outplay, or is there really a skill gap as well? Do you think?
It's a combination. I actually think Rams defensively are really tough, as well as Kyler Murray has been playing. He does have 4 interceptions in the past 3 games, so I would look to the Rams to turn him over a little bit here. And I actually think the Rams are just unbelievably tough on offense. And DeAndre Hopkins is still a little bit banged up with his ribs. So.
Yeah, they look really good. It's been fun to watch them. Baltimore at Denver is the next game. I don't know anything about Denver. We haven't talked about them yet. So Baltimore, they had kind of a rough start, but then really have put things together. What do you think about? Oh wait, let me call the over under here is 45, and Denver is favored by 1 point. So close game. Is this a stay away game for you?
I'm probably leaning the under on this. Denver's defense has been awesome this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd look to Lamar Jackson to get going running. I can't see him passing.
Not a lot of passing, a running game, shorten the game if you do a lot of runs and get the under there. Less time to score, right?
Yeah.
Tampa Bay at the Patriots is another interesting game. Tampa Bay is favored by 6.5, and the Patriots, not the most exciting team in football. We talked about last week. The interesting thing about this one is this is Tom Brady leading Tampa Bay, going back to the Patriots and playing at home in front of the crowd. So he played last year, but not a crowd. So this year it's the crowd who's loved Tom Brady, and then he leaves and takes another team to the Super Bowl. So really interesting dynamic here. Tampa Bay is favored by 6.5. Over under is 49. What do you like about this game?
So from a data standpoint, this game is really interesting across all the books, all the offshore books. 94% of the bets have been placed on New England so far.
Really?
Yeah, to cover.
That is very interesting. Why do you think that is? Is that the Tom Brady factor? Is that the crowd's going to be hyper loud and everything, or is this just Tampa Bay lost last week and so they're looking weak?
I'm actually surprised about this. Like, I would lean Tampa, revenge game. Brady just sticking it to Belichick. But yeah, so far, I was very shocked to see that number.
Now, I'm not a Tom Brady fan. I admit he's a go. I'm not a fan, but betting on him to get distracted by the crowd when he's been doing this for so many years. He's a competitor. Like, I don't see him getting rattled at all. I see him like thriving in this and really taking it to him. So
yeah, I don't see this as a crowd game, but Belichick, to give him some credit, is a defensive mastermind over his career. you know,
This is a Darth Vader Obi-Wan moment.
yes,
If I may put this in nerd terms, this is exciting. That's why this is interesting. I love this game, so I'll return to that and see if we can do some. No, we won't do any sound effects, but that's a fun one. So who did you like for this one? Did you
I
like?
like Tampa.
You like Tampa to cover? Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll cover the 6.5.
All right, great. That is an interesting one. I'll take a special note of that the crowd is overwhelmingly taking the Patriots on that. Another interesting game, Monday night game, which I watched Monday Night Manning. It was fun to watch, is the Raiders at the LA Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 3.5 with 52.5 as the over. I like the LA Chargers looked great last week, but then also I've been a fan of the Raiders defense, watching them really succeed. What's interesting to you about this game?
Raiders just lost their defensive tackle, suspended 6 games for performance-enhancing drugs. But, Vegas has been a lot tougher on defense than people are giving credit for. I do expect this game to be a shootout. Justin Herbert, phenomenal last week. But I'm probably leaning Vegas, to cover the 3.5-point spread.
That's really interesting. Raiders losing their end, especially being a defensive force there. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Carolina at Dallas. I watched a bit of this Dallas game last week, and Dallas is firing. Like, they got Zeke back in the role. He looked really good and really strong. But Carolina been playing well as well. Dallas favored by 4.5. What do you think about this?
I'm leaning Dallas. Carolina's defense has actually been number 1 in the league to start the season. But looking who they played, I think it was Jets, Saints. They didn't play top talent, and Dallas has too many weapons, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Carolina also just lost their top cornerback.
So losing defense when you need defense. Zeke's got his own NFT too.
Nice.
So, I don't know. Maybe that's, the crypto blessings coming to people. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Anyways.
Hasn't worked for Saquon yet, though.
All right. All right. We'll keep track of the NFT factor. I doubt it's doing much, but Cleveland Browns at the Vikings. Browns are favored by 1.5. This is a close game. What do you got on this?
68% has actually been bet on Minnesota. I would still lean towards Cleveland in this. Their defense all around, both sides of the ball. I think they'll be able to run. Nick Chubb will be able to run all over Minnesota. Dalvin Cook is back at practice. It's still a question mark whether he plays this week coming off of that ankle injury. So I'm going to lean Cleveland in this one.
You like Nick Chubb a lot. You've mentioned him a few times. He's one of your guys.
Yeah, I think he's actually the most talented running back in the league from a pure runner standpoint. But he loses half of his work, because they have another stud running back. Kareem Hunt is, another great all-around talent.
Houston at the Bills. Now, the Bills are favored by 17 in this. Over-under is 47, though. So, Houston is just an interesting. I like looking at the teams sort of at the lower end as well, because it's just interesting on these spreads. The Bills kind of came back, and they looked really good last week as well. Any insights into this game? Do you think, Houston can manage to keep it close? Because they've kept it close relatively, a few times. Or is this just the Bills had one game, to start the season that was hard, and now they're just totally killing?
Yeah, I mean, Bills had that awful game versus Pittsburgh to start the season, but got back on track, and now Pittsburgh is being the team that I thought they were going to be with that poor offensive line. I avoid games with spreads this big usually, so I could see. I don't know. I just can't see Houston putting up too many points on Buffalo.
Yeah, I can't see Houston doing too much to score, but 17 is a lot. So, you only got so much time, but if Houston can only manage to get 10 points and, scoring 27 for the Bills is definitely not out of the question. They could get 30.
That's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah. So that's the reason I was thinking is if Houston can't do anything, then that's actually a decent size spread. Plus the over under is 47. You could get there, 20 to 27 game, 10 to 37 game, that's possible as well. So I don't put that out of the realm of possibility, but I'm kind of with you on a stay away as well.
So interesting fact right now, 70% of bets placed so far. I know it's still early in the week, but have been placed on Houston.
Well, that's what happened last week, and they failed everyone. So I don't know. Now I'm wondering if the crowd knows anything about Houston, or if it's just a bunch of people who are hopeful for them. Um, the Lions. I know we love talking about the Lions. This is Lions at the Bears. Both teams are looking terrible, but the Bears are favored by 3 points with an over/under of 42. What do you do with these two terrible teams?
Give me the Lions. I prefer the coach of the Lions much better. He has his team playing hard. They actually lost a heartbreaker. Justin Tucker hit a 66-yard field goal to break the NFL record last week to beat him. That was amazing. And I have Justin Tucker on every one of my fantasy teams, so very happy about that kick.
Classic Detroit Lions loss, a record-breaking turn of events. The Lions have been playing well. They just can't close the deal. So I like this call here as well. By 3, that's pretty close. The Bears are no good anyway. It's a division game, so everybody's playing for something. I think that's a good call.
Yep. And then my big upset pick of the week, the 0-3 Indianapolis Colts versus the 1-2 Miami Dolphins.
I didn't even put that on my list. I was like, that game isn't even happening. But you think that's a good call?
I'm going with the Colts. I think their defense gets right. I just think Miami's offensive line is, in the same discussion as the New York Giants or Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just atrocious.
You got to win sometime, right? Probably odds would suggest you're going to win at least a game or two. Maybe this is the one. I got some college picks I wanted to talk about as well. Any other NFL that wasn't on my list that you want to bring up?
No, the only other interesting points from a data standpoint, Steelers Green Bay. 90% of the bets early on in the week have been on Pittsburgh to cover the 6.5 points. If I had a lean, I'd be leaning Green Bay still, though. Pittsburgh's just awful, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't see those 90% a lot. Usually when I'm asking you, there's 66, 70%, but that's a pretty significant, overwhelming number.
Yep.
Really interesting. It makes me wonder if the crowd is right or if it's too much.
Yeah, it's still early in the week.
Okay.
It'll come back to the mean, get closer to Sunday.
Gotcha. So for some college games, let's start with University of Michigan, since we talked about them earlier at the top. University of Michigan, UM is at Wisconsin. The over-under is 43.5. UM had a hard time scoring, and Wisconsin's not very good. So this game is 43.5, and both teams, they only run. So they've got great running backs. I see the clock running down. I don't think anybody will be able to score enough. This game's going to be over in 2 hours.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. The other surprising thing, in my opinion, is that Wisconsin's favored by 2.5.
What's going on? It's a home game, Big Ten. It must be, right? Camp Randall is loud, and that it could be an impact a little bit more in college. But I don't know. UM looks pretty good, though.
I mean, Wisconsin, game 1 and 4 have been awful. I mean, I'll take Michigan with the points, getting the 2.5 points, and I'll take the under on this.
Yeah, I'm with you on the under. I'm not going to pick this one because Big Ten games, I don't know, it's going to be boring. I know that. It's just going to be, 3 and out, a run fest with the clock ticking down. But still an interesting one to watch on the data. Another big game, Arkansas at Georgia. Arkansas just proved themselves against Texas A&M and now are in long odds underdogs. Georgia is favored by 18.5 points. Are they that good?
I think there's 2 teams in college football this year, and Georgia happens to be one of them. Just give me Alabama and Georgia. I am staying away from this game. I don't know what to make of it. I could just as easy see Georgia winning 38-10 as I could seeing this be a 24-14 game. So you have Arkansas, who is 7th in the nation in 8th in the nation in yards per game running, and Georgia 7th in the nation in yards giving up running. So somebody has to give here, and I think Georgia's defensive line wins this battle.
I think Georgia will win. I think 18.5 points is ridiculous in the SEC.
Yeah,
Alabama would like that over Florida, and just because they're Alabama, and I think the same thing is happening here. And Alabama won against Florida, but they couldn't keep it 20 points. I mean, come on. These are great football players and great coaches. I just don't see it happening. It's a division game. It's on the line. It's national. It's going to be the night game, and everything. Not going to be a blowout.
I mean, this game could be 35-17, and just be right around that 18.5 number.
Yeah. You're right. It's the same thing I was talking about earlier with another game with Houston. So that's potential, but I think Arkansas is a lot better than in comparison. So, we'll see. Are there two teams? Is it Alabama and Georgia? I hope not. I like a lot more parity in college football.
I do too.
My other game of the week, a little bit lower down the ticket, is Michigan State hosting Western Kentucky University. Now, you wouldn't normally kind of bat an eye at this, but MSU is favored by 11 points. But Western Kentucky has played some decent opponents, Indiana and some other decent opponents, pretty close. And Michigan State had 5 yards of offense in the second half last week. 5 yards. Like, they could do nothing. It was a boring game. They won in overtime on an interception. Defense saved them. It was a great win for their program, kind of a Cinderella story right now, but Western Kentucky can cover 11. I'm expecting a close game and a nail biter.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. Western Kentucky's averaging over 400 yards in passing per game. I would lean Michigan State, but on the money line. I think the over-under on this game was like 62.5. I'm avoiding this game, but
I mean, Western Kentucky is Michigan State can run, so they got a really great running back, and so they'll score, which is not a characteristic Michigan State tactic. So they'll score. Western Kentucky can throw the ball. They're air raid-ish, if not all the way air raid, and so there will be some points on the board. 62, I could see right around there. Fun game to watch. Hopefully, there's a lot of touchdowns and excitement. But then again, it's also homecoming for Michigan State, and they're 4-0 for the first time after a 2-10 season last year, or 2-9 or whatever it was. So the crowd could be pretty hype and really put a dent in Western Kentucky. So again, stay away game, but an interesting and fun one to watch. Anything else on your radar this week, Chewy?
No, that's it.
That is the scoreboard for this week. This is absolutely not financial advice. It's a look at football and how Augur and Chainlink make on-chain games possible. Next week, we'll be back. We'll look at how we did, some of our predictions, and how the data performed. And of course, we'll follow the major stories for the following week's games. Please like and subscribe. We're trying to do this every week and talk football, talk data, talk sports, talk Chainlink and Augur as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Chewy, see you next week, man.
See you.